Good day. There you are, my heart-steadying friend. I sensed your arrival before I even heard your steps, as though the garden itself took a slower breath to make space for you. The mist had just begun to settle low among the thyme and creeping clover when I felt it, that soft awareness, the kind that only stirs when someone dear draws near. And here you are, just in time, as always. Come, sit beside me, right here. Yes, on this old stone worn smooth not just by time, but by many quiet evenings, just like this one. It still holds the warmth of the sun beneath its skin, even though daylight has long since slipped behind the hills. If you press your palm to it, you'll feel it, that hush of heat, the kind that lingers out of kindness more than memory. The evening's drawn its gentle veil across the sky, not yet night, not quite day, the kind of in-between hour when even the air feels thoughtful. There's a softness to it, like the world has paused, not for sleep yet, but for a breath, a sigh, a stillness full of meaning. Do you hear the spring just beyond the stone wall? It murmurs the same song it always has, a low and steady trickle threading its way through roots and moss. I often think it speaks in a tongue older than words. Just there, where the lantern light doesn't quite reach, it slips over the worn lip of the basin, the one the monks carved long ago with quiet hands. You can almost imagine them still here, can't you? Tending herbs, whispering prayers not because they had to, but because it made the silence feel fuller. Fireflies have returned tonight. They drift like tiny wandering stars, blinking in and out of the dusk as though they can't quite decide whether to stay. I never tire of watching them. There's something comforting in their hesitance, like even the smallest lights are still finding their way. I imagine we're much the same, you and I. Not lost, just gently moving without urgency toward what feels right. The scent of crushed lavender clings to the sleeves of my old cloak. I brushed past a patch on my way here, and it gifted me a little of its calm. You'll notice the air carries more than mist tonight. There's rosemary in bloom just beneath the tower's arch, and mint creeping up between the stones. Every breath tastes like something ancient and kind. The sort of scent that lives in your memory long after it's gone, tucked away in the folds of sleep. Look up if you state. Like. The clouds tonight are pale and wandering. Neither heavy nor hollow, they drift as though in no particular hurry, stretching across the last blush of fading light. Sometimes I think they look like old wool, spun thin by the wind and left out to dry across the sky. And behind them, stars wait patiently for their turn. They always do. You've come but the right hour, my dearest one. This is the time when the world asks nothing of us. No decisions, no destinations, just presence, just peace. We've earned it, haven't we? A chance to sit quietly beneath ivy-covered stone and say nothing if we choose, or say everything if it comes softly. Whatever you bring with you tonight, worries, weariness, wandering thoughts, lay them down here. The ground is old, it can hold them for a while. Even the tower rests now. Its stones, once sharp and commanding, have softened. Ivy trails from its sides like green threads sewing the earth to the sky. The bell that used to chime for prayers has long since gone silent. But I think the silence it left behind has its own kind of holiness, a sacred hush that wraps around the garden like a second cloak. Let's stay here, you and I. Let the spring do the speaking. Let the fireflies wander their slow circles. Let the night come, one breath at a time. There is nothing more to do, no next step to take. Just this patch of ground, this moment shared. No rest if you wish. You're safe here. You're home here. And I am glad beyond words that you've come again. Let the quiet wrap around us like an old friend returning at last. The world has exhaled, and now, so can we. Settle in, my dear one. The stone leans kindly tonight, and the warmth it holds seeps in slow and steady. It helps, doesn't it? Eases the weight in your back. Reminds your bones that they are not alone in their tiredness. Say, Moo, you've seen much of this place now. The garden, the tower, the slow dance of light and leaf. And perhaps, Fetals, now you're wondering about me. Not my name. No need for that here. Names are for calling across battlefields or signing beneath royal seals. But here, beneath the hush of an old tree and beside the spring song, we need no names between us. What I can tell you is this. My hands no longer grip a sword, but tend soil. They know the shape of carrot tops and the tangle of mint roots. They carry the scent of rosemary and stone, and when they ache, it is a good ache, the kind that lingers not from injury, but from usefulness, from kneeling long beside wildflowers, coaxing new life from old earth. There was a time, yes, when the aches came from other things, from cold armor pressed to tired shoulders, from long days in saddle and longer nights without sleep, from wounds stitched in haste and bruises hidden beneath pride. But those years, they feel like another man's story now, a tale I was asked to live for a while. And when that part ended, I did not mourn, I simply laid it down. You might be curious then, how I came to rest here beneath ivy and sky in the company of bees and moss. The truth is, I wandered, for longer than I intended, for longer than I knew how to measure. Through forests that forgot the sound of speech, across meadows so wide they seemed to bend the sun. I walked with no map, no message, no mission, just a longing, not for glory, not for return, only stillness. And one day, I found this place. Or perhaps it found me. The tower, crumbling and quiet, wrapped in vines and memory. The garden, half wild, half waiting. It wasn't much, not at first glance, but it welcomed me without asking who I'd been. It didn't require I earn its peace. It simply offered it, and I said yes. I cleared the garden slowly, not to tame it, but to learn it. I discovered what grew where, what needed shade and what loved sun. I let the herbs teach me patience. Let the roots show me how to be still. There's something humbling in watching things grow without command. A lavender stalk does not need orders to bloom. A bean vine climbs because it remembers how, and in their quiet rhythm, I found my own. The silence here. It's not the kind that isolates. It's a full silence. A listening silence, one that seems to nod when I speak aloud to the wind or the fire or the stones. I've never once felt alone, though I spend most days in solitude. There are voices here, soft ones, not ghosts, no. Just the murmuring presence of place, the way the spring sings, the way the leaves rustle even when no breeze stirs, the way moss spreads as if following ancient instructions. My armor, it rests beneath a rosebush now, a thick one, overgrown with soft pink blooms that lean as if to whisper. The plates are dull with age, and I dare say a wren has taken up house inside the breastplate. I let it be. What better use for it now? It once guarded a heart through storms and steel. Now it guards a nest. I think that suits it just fine. And my sword, that lies against a patch of sleeping violets, I placed it there one morning, and never felt the need to lift it again. There's a kind of trust in letting a blade go unused. It says here, there is nothing to defend. Here we are beyond the need for cutting lines or choosing sides. The sword doesn't rust. It rests, as I do. If I seem different than you imagined, that's all right. I often feel that way myself, not changed exactly, but revealed, like a figure beneath old paint, slowly uncovered. What I was before helped me arrive here. Yes, but what I am now is shaped more by stillness than by strife, more by kindness than by command. As I've learned that gentleness is not weakness, it's strength of a different sort. The kind that cradles, that carries without pressing, that listens without needing to reply. I used to speak in orders. Now I speak to the herbs, to the wind, to you, and I've never felt more heard. You may wonder if I miss the world outside this garden. I do, in small ways. The smell of horses, freshly brushed. The sound of banners flapping in morning wind. The feel of the first frost biting through leather gloves. But those things, I find, visit me here in memory when they wish to, and that is enough. They arrive not with longing but with fondness, like old friends who need no invitation. Now, the days stretch slow and golden. I rise with the sun and sleep with the stars. I mend broken stones in the wall when they lean too far. I trim the roses when they grow heavy. I sit, like this, in the evenings, just here where the moss cradles my back, and I speak softly to the one who sits beside me. To you, my companion in stillness. You see, I did not seek a home in the way men seek castles. I sought a place where my breath could slow, where the world would not ask me to prove my worth each dawn. And I found it, not in riches, not in renown, but here, in a garden forgotten by most, remembered by me, in the weight of a cloak across my shoulders, and the hum of bees weaving between foxglove and fern. And now that I sipped him here, now that the old paths lie behind me, and the sword has grown quiet, and the rose bushes curl without fear, I feel whole in a way I never did before. Not whole like a story with a perfect ending, no, whole like a field after rain, full, open, ready to grow. So this is who I am now, not a knight of conquest or crown, but a keeper of a quiet place, a companion to roots and wind and stars, and tonight, a friend to you. Thank you for sitting with me, for listening, for simply being. That sip's more than enough. Now that we've settled a while, my friend, I find my thoughts drifting, as they often do, into the little things this place has revealed to me over time. You've seen the garden in its quiet glow. Yes, but did I ever show you the alcove? No, not the arch near the rosemary beds. That one is plain and proper. I mean the one half covered in ivy behind the old fig tree. You wouldn't find it easily unless you were looking not for it, but for shade, or perhaps for a place to lean when the sun is high, and the day too warm to press on. It's tucked away, shy and shadowed, its stones crumbled in just the right way to offer entry, but not invitation. I came upon it by accident. One misty morning, or perhaps it came upon me. My foot had slipped slightly on the mossy path. Nothing serious, just a soft shuffle of boot, and when I reached out for balance, I caught the edge of the ivy with my fingers, and beneath that veil, a mosaic. Faded, yes, weather-worn, The colors bled long ago into one another, like the last blush of sunset before night takes the sky. But still, you could see it. The arc of a bird in flight, wings outstretched, head turned slightly as though in song, each little tile placed with care, even now holding the shape of joy. It made no sound, of course, and yet, I swear, the moment I saw it, the world hushed around me as if to let me hear it anyway. Sometimes I sit there, just for a while. The alcove cradles the wind differently, softer, as though it knows it's holding a memory, and the stone beneath gives off the faintest warmth, not heat, mind you, just the echo of sunlight stored deep in its bones. I think of whoever laid those tiles, what their hands looked like, if they sang while they worked, if they knew someone someday would rest there with moss at their feet and thoughts unhurried by time. The set's a comfort in that. Don't you think that even beauty meant for no audience can last, that even hidden things remember how to be seen? Impulse the bird, of course. She returns each spring. I've never known her name, but she's easy to recognize. Small, with feathers the shade of morning ash, and a song that always seems too big for her tiny frame. She nests atop my old helm. You remember the one? It rests beside the rose bush, tucked slightly beneath the bench, where I sharpened my knives before I set them down for good. The first year she came, I thought it a fluke, some wandering creature with no better perch. But year after year, she returns, always the same nest, though she rebuilds it each time with fresh bits of grass and wool plucked from the sheepfold nearby. And when her eggs hatch, the garden shifts its tune, the trees hold their breath, the world folds inward just enough to keep the chicks safe. As for never disturbed her, I wouldn't have stirred, dare. That helm has found its finest use now, far more noble than it ever was upon my brow. There's a tree beyond the sundial, the gnarled one that leans just slightly westward. It bears fruit in the early weeks of autumn, though I never planted it. Apples, soft-skinned and pale green, with a blush of pink near the stem. They fall before they're quite ripe, and the deer come quietly at dusk to nibble the windfalls. Sometimes I sit and watch, barely breathing, as a doe lifts her gaze between bites, alert, but not alarmed, as though she knows this patch of land has no claws hidden in the grass. And the scent, when the apples ripen, the whole garden smells like sweet rain falling on warm leaves. Not strong, just present. The way a memory floats into a room long after the moment it belongs to has passed. I like to gather a few in a basket lined with linen, let them sit near the fire until they soften. The skins wrinkle just slightly, and the sugar within becomes shy and golden. I slice them slowly, and sometimes when the mood takes me, I speak to them as I do to the lavender or the vines. A word of thanks, a wish for softness. You might laugh at that, but I find the world listens more when you speak to it gently. One night, a night not unlike this one, I woke with the sense that something had changed. No sound startled me, no chill roused me, just a feeling, the kind that presses quietly on the edge of sleep and asks for attention. So I sat up, wrapped my cloak tighter, and stepped out beneath the stars. And there, on the flagstones near the basin where I wash my hands, moonlight, but not just scattered light. It had gathered, somehow, pooling like silver water in the cracks of the stone. A perfect circle had formed, clear and soft, framed by the shadows of the overhanging vines, and in its center, a petal, just one, white, with a hint of violet at the base. No flower in the garden bore its likeness. Not then. Perhaps one drifted in on the wind, or perhaps it was left by something I'll never know. But it sat there in that little moonlit cradle, as if it had always been meant to arrive. I didn't touch it. I simply watched, listened. And for a long while the world felt held. Then I returned to sleep more easily that night than I had in weeks, as though whatever placed the petal there had also brushed my brow and whispered, "Rest, you are part of this." There are other moments too, smaller ones. A ladybug clinging to the rim of the watering jug, stubbornly refusing to be dislodged. A single stalk of chive pushing up through a crack I'd never noticed. The way the wind sometimes carries the scent of someone I've not seen in years, and though I know it cannot be, I breathe deeper just the same. Even the stones here seem to shift their faces with the light. There's one shaped like a curled sleeping cat. Another, flat as a page with a perfect ring of moss growing only at its edge. They never speak, but they say enough. I think the longer one remains in a place, the more it begins to reveal itself. Not all at once, but in offerings. Little ones. And if you meet those offerings with stillness, you begin to see the rhythm beneath everything. Not the rhythm of time exactly, but the rhythm of presence, of belonging. You see, my friend, when I first came here, I expected solitude. What I found instead was company of the quietest kind. The kind that does not need words to be heard. The kind that welcomes you, not because of what you bring, but simply because you are willing to stay. And now I feel as though I've become a part of the garden's memory, just as the mosaic has, just as the apples do. A detail, not too grand, not too loud, but remembered nonetheless. When I leave someday, whenever that may be, I like to imagine someone else finding this place. Perhaps they'll lift the ivy and find the bird in flight. Perhaps they'll sit beneath the apple tree and feel a petal drift into their lap. Perhaps they'll trace the carving on the underside of that old garden stone and wonder who last touched it. And I hope they still feel what I have felt. Not awe, not revelation, just a quiet knowing that there is beauty in things that ask for nothing. That wonder does not always knock. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes it waits, right there in the open, right there in the light, right here beside us. So it just sit a little longer, you and I. The garden hasn't finished telling its stories just yet. You know, the older I become, the more I find myself listening to the rhythm of things, not just the spring's gentle hum or the wind threading through the rosemary hedge, but time itself. It no longer moves as I once thought it did, not in the clean, straight line the young are taught to expect. No, it swells and softens, pools in quiet places, doubles back to trace the shape of memories, and sometimes it simply rests. I used to fear its passing. I'll admit that to you plainly, since we've grown close enough to speak honestly. There was a time I chased it, tried to capture it with grand deeds, hurried through it with lists and commands and goals drawn in wax upon parchment. I believed then that to live well meant to leave behind a record bold enough for others to follow. But now I've come to understand that the truest legacy is not one left in monuments or echoes of names shouted across feasts, but in the way we touch the small moments, tenderly, kindly, and without expectation. There's a stable boy I knew long ago. He had a habit of whistling as he worked, tunes without beginning or end. They meandered like a stream through the morning mist, rising in pitch as the sun did, and softening again in the golden light of dusk. He was never taught to do this. It was simply in him, like breath. You could always tell when he was nearby. Not by sight, but by the music. His whistling filled the courtyards and barns, not to entertain, but to soothe. I remember watching him once brushing down an old mare whose legs trembled slightly beneath her. He leaned close to her ear, not with words, but with a tune so gentle I barely caught it. And the horse, God's bless her, stilled. She sighed, her eyes closed, and in that moment I saw more magic than any battlefield had ever offered. He's gone now, moved on with time. But sometimes when the wind catches a certain pitch in the birdsong, I think I hear him again, still whistling, still reminding the world that softness is a kind of strength. Then there was my friend, the carver. He was never grand with his tools, never carved kings or altars. But give him a bit of branch or bark fallen from the willow, and he would sit beneath the eaves and shape the smallest faces you've ever seen. Not dramatic, not heroic, just real. A furrowed brow here, a crooked smile there, the eyes of someone thinking, the mouth of someone about to speak. He used to say that the wood already knew who it wanted to be. He was only listening, and truly when I watched him work, head tilted, hands gentle, eyes soft with patience, I believed it. He once carved a face into the handle of my travel brush. I still have it. The nose is worn away now, but the little smile remains. I rub my thumb across it now and then, especially in moments when the day feels heavy. Somehow it lightens things, the way a hand on your shoulder does when nothing needs to be said. Then the healer. She was unlike anyone else I fear have met. She had herbs hanging from every beam of her cottage, lavender of course, and thyme, but also wild nettles and yellow yarrow, bundled like blessings. The place smelled of resin and sun-warmed bark. She'd never rush, no matter how dire the need seemed. Instead, she'd brew a cup of something warm, settle into her low stool, and ask a question that had nothing to do with pain. "Tell me," she'd say, "how are you sleeping?" I came to her once with a gash on my leg and a shameful impatience in my voice. But she sat me down, handed me a mug, and asked about my mother. "Do you still remember her songs?" That was all she said. And I did, and I wept, and only after that did she bind the wound. She believed healing was a matter of tending not just the body, but the story the body carried. To her, stories were medicine, each one a salve that helped memory mend where muscle could not. I've carried that with me. It's why I speak to you like this, night after night, as the fire settles and the stars begin their slow blinking across the sky. Because I believe there is something in the telling, in the sharing, that soothes more deeply than even the warmest cloak. You see, love, if I may call it that, is not always what songs claim. It's pussions, not always flame and thunder. Often, it's found in the waiting, in staying beside someone without trying to fix them, in remembering how they like their tea, or which side of the stone warms first in the morning. It's found in listening to the same story for the 12th time, not because you forgot, but because they needed to tell it again. Love is presence, nothing more, and certainly nothing less. And Iceward loved many in that way. Not romantically, perhaps, not in the way minstrels sing of, but with a fullness all the same. I've loved a friend who walked beside me in silence for miles without asking where we were going. I've loved a cook who always left a heel of bread aside for the birds. I've loved a stranger who helped me right my cart when a wheel stuck in the mud, then disappeared before I could thank them. That sips the thing, isn't it, Moses? We are made whole, not by grand gestures, but by being known in small ways. Seen, held in the thoughts of another, even for a heartbeat. These days, peace comes easily to me. Not because I have nothing to fear, but because I've learned that fear needn't be the loudest voice in the room. The garden teaches that. Every leaf, every slow-growing root, whispers patience. There steps a rhythm to it, a kind of breath. You can hear it if you listen, in and out. The trees do it. The moss, too. Even the stones seem to join in. Nothing 'cause I fixed us. The send full, fold serene. Let it anchor me when the world grows too fast, too loud, too sharp. I place my hand on the earth cool in the evening, and remember all things change. Yes, but not all change is loss. Some of it is simply movement, a petal falling not in despair but because it is time, a river shifting course not in defiance, but because it has listened to the land and knows a gentler way. And I hope you feel that, here with me, that gentleness, that slow acceptance, that quiet invitation to simply be. You don't just have to do anything more. Not tonight. Not here. Just be. Let the stillness hold you. Let my voice wrap softly around the corners of your thoughts. Let the fire's last embers flicker behind your eyes. I have no answers, my friend. No clever truths to dress in silk. Solely this, I've found more meaning in the hush of evening and the weight of a warm cloak than I ever did in a hall full of praise. And if that sips the kind of peace you seek, then you stir in the right place. Right here, beside me, safe, seen, till moths are lured. Now, breathe with me, in slowly, and out, there that sips better. So let's stay like this a while longer. Let the stars have their turn at watching over you. The garden is quieter now, isn't it? You can feel it in the way the air settles around us. You're not heavy. You know, nothing like that. Just still, as though even the breeze has found a place to rest and is rocking itself to sleep beneath the leaves. And I, for my part, well, I've drawn myself closer to the wall. The moss here is thick and springy beneath my shoulders, and the stone has cooled just enough to remind me that the night is deepening. Let your back rest too. Go on. There's no more light to chase, no more stories to unravel tonight. Only the hush between the words, only the slow, kind rhythm of the dark. The stars are starting to show themselves again, peeking through where the clouds have drifted on. A few at first, like scouts of the sky, then more blinking into view one by one like shy companions who don't want to interrupt, only to be near that one. There above the elder tree, that's always the first to appear, and it's always just where I expect it. Steady, familiar, somehow reassuring. Funny, isn't it? How the stars look the same from night to night. And yet, somehow, they always feel different. Tonight they seem softer. Not cold or distant, but gentle, like old stories murmured at the edge of sleep. Maybe it's the way they shimmer against the mist that still lingers low across the garden. Or maybe it's simply because we've sat together so long and the world has settled with us. I can feel it in my bones, this hush, that slow unwinding, like threads loosening from the corners of a well-used cloak. The muscles let go first. Then the thoughts follow. They don't vanish. Not quite. They just grow quieter, less pressing. Like they've remembered they don't need to speak all at once. Even my voice. I can hear how it softens with the dark. Do you remember the stone I moved earlier? The one that had blocked the old path? It's still there, just off to the side now, sitting peacefully in the grass, as if it too is satisfied with where it's ended up, and what was beneath it. Just soil, damp and cool. Earth that hadn't seen light in years, and 3 little snails, white-shelled and slow-moving, curled up in the quiet like tiny pearls lost in the folds of the world. That's all. No carvings, no ancient keepsakes, no secret roots or forgotten seeds, just 3 sleeping snails and the deep, fragrant breath of soil. And I felt no disappointment, none at all, because some things are simply meant to be quiet. We move a stone not always to find something hidden, but to be reminded that time is always at work, even where we cannot see it. The snails didn't need discovery to be real. The soil didn't need sunlight to be alive. It all was and is, just as it should be. I think that's what peace looks like. Not always an answer. Not always clarity, just presence. A moment that doesn't demand to be more than it is. Like this one, here with you. I told you much this evening, haven't I? That's Bedumas. You've listened so gently, so patiently. There's a kind of grace in that, the kind the world often rushes past, the kind we only find in the pause, in sitting beside someone not to be heard, but simply to be near. You remind me of the fireflies in a way. Not because you flicker or fade, but because you arrive without fanfare. You bring light without noise. Just a presence that eases the edges of things. Even now I can feel your breath slow beside mine. In and out, in and out. The garden feels it too. The vines along the wall have stopped their soft rustling. The bird who nested in my helm has tucked her head beneath her wing. And the spring it still sings, of course. But its song has dropped into a gentler register, like a lullaby remembered by the stones. The moss beneath me is growing cooler, not unpleasant, just honest. It's the kind of chill that lets you know the day is truly behind you. And with it, all that you carried. You can lay it down now, my friend. Whatever thoughts followed you here, stirry, whatever corners of worry or wondering still stirred while we spoke. You don't need them to fall asleep. You don't need to resolve anything before you rest. Let them curl up like the snails beneath the stone, safe in the dark, needing nothing but stillness. There's something sacred in endings, I think. Not the loud kind. Not the ones marked with ceremony or fanfare, but the soft ones, the ones you barely notice until you've already stepped into quiet. This is one of those, and what a gentle ending it is. The fire zip's gone low now. Only a few embers remain, breathing softly in the ash. I could stir them, bring them back to life with a bit of kindling, but I don't think I will. Let them rest too. The warmth they've offered is already tucked into the folds of my cloak, into your sleeves, into this moment. Do you hear the owl? Just there, off beyond the apple tree. One note, then silence. She won't call again for some time. She's letting the stillness have its turn. I wonder, sometimes, if nights like this remember themselves, if years from now the garden will hum faintly with the echo of our voices. if the moss beneath this wall will hold the shape of our backs, and the air will carry the memory of a shared breath, maybe someone else will sit here and feel a calm they can't quite name, and maybe that will be enough. But that sip's for another time. For now, all that matters is this: we came here, we rested, we listened, and in doing so we made space for quiet to bloom. And what a beautiful bloom it is. Let's not say much more tonight. Words are growing heavy now, and dreams are beginning to rise like mist from the edges of thought. I can feel them, just beyond the edge of waking. Soft things, gentle things. You've stayed long enough to know the garden by heart. Let it cradle you now. Let the hush become your lullaby. Let the moss be your blanket. Let the stars keep watch, not because they must, but because they choose to. We too speak again. You know we will. But tonight, let's simply rest. Lean in a little closer, my friend. No need for distance now. The night has drawn its softest curtain around us, and even the stars are resting more quietly than before. Can you feel it? The way the world holds its breath, not in worry, but in wonder. This is the hour where nothing is expected, and everything is forgiven, where even time slows its steps, as though it too longs to sit for just a moment longer. You've given me a gift tonight. Your company, your quiet listening, your gentle presence. You didn't have to come, and yet here you are, sharing this small pocket of stillness at the edge of the world with me. I can't tell you what that means, not truly. Only that it has settled in me like warmth from a long-held ember. And in return I offer you this. Not a story, not tonight. You've had enough of those for now. No, just a whisper, a soft one, a farewell wrapped in moss and moonlight. You've walked the path with me, sat upon the stone, breathed in the dusk. Now it's time to let all of it drift away. No need to hold on to anything. Not the words we've shared, not the thoughts you carried here. Let them float like mist above the spring, weightless, wandering, quiet. You are safe here. Do you know that? Truly know it. Not just in body, but in soul, in heart, in all the tender places the world tries so often to harden. Here, you are held gently by stone and soil, by leaf and lantern, by my voice, and by the silence that now begins to bloom between my words. Close your eyes, if you haven't guessed already. Let the earth rise up beneath you, and remember the shape of your rest. Let the night cradle your thoughts like petals tucked into the fold of a favored book. I'll stay with you a while longer, just until you drift. No need to speak. To Nulid, Bly said. That sip's all that sip's asked of you now. In and out, softly, slowly, as though each breath was stitching you into the fabric of the world. Can you feel the moss beneath us remembering every back it's ever cradled? Can you hear the spring humming low, like an old lullaby passed from stone to root to water? Can you sense the garden settling down as you do, bowing gently to sleep's arrival? Good. The spit's all I hoped for. You steved done well, simply by being here. So now, my dear friend, my fellow dreamer, let me leave you with this, the last thread of the night. You are safe here, my friend. Sleep, where the flowers watch over you, and time forgets your name, just for a while. I'll see you again, on some other night, under some other sky. But for now, let go. Let everything soften and sleep.